Right, once again, we are back. This is the Boxing Politic. I'm here to speak about the upcoming fight between the unified champion Jeison Rosario and the man who's recognized as number one at 154, Jermell Charlo, the Lions only. I want to do a breakdown of this fight, get into some of the details of why I think who's gonna do better, how the fight may play out. I'm looking over their fights. I took some time, reviewed a few of the fights, looking at their progression, and I'm seeing some things that play into one another's hands from each fighter. But we're gonna get more into that. But first, please, while you're here, like, share, subscribe, and help the channel grow. We're gonna get some new equipment to make sure we're having better sound quality. I want you guys to hear me loud and clear. I want to make sure that we have the type of lighting to make the environment something that's really appealing to the eyes. You know, we know YouTube is an amateurs, not amateurs playground, but it's where amateurs develop. Yeah, it's where amateurs develop. I've seen the progression in a lot of other people's shows, and you're gonna see it right here too with the boxing politic. So chill out. Let's get into some boxing. So, like I said, we were gonna talk about Jeison Rosario versus Jermell Charlo. I'm looking at the fight. I reviewed a few of the fights. I reviewed pretty much all of the fights since Jermell Charlo started training with Coach Derrick James out in Dallas, and I reviewed about as much of Jeison Rosario's that I could get to because a lot of his career was in the Dominican Republic. He came over to the U.S. A couple years ago. Fought some decent opposition at 154 at Gallimore. He fought Jorge Cota. Forget the guy's name. Had a couple fights with him, a 6-rounder and a 10-rounder, and these were highly competitive fights. So, looking over his career, I noticed some things about Jeison Rosario that they're gonna play a major part in the fight. Rosario is a counter puncher. Like what we saw with J Rock, his most effective punches were the punches when J Rock was punching. So he was able to catch him with effective counters all the way over the top. A lot of good body shots. I saw that across quite a few of his fights. Jeison Rosario is an extremely effective body puncher, especially off the counter. He keeps his hands tight, his arms tight. His guard is great, and he punches off that guard. So he he has some good offensive attributes. He's also an accumulation puncher. There's this misconception that has one punch knockout power in both his hands, and that's not the case. He wears guys down to the body throughout a lot of counter punches. He wears them down to the body and eventually gets them out of there. So it's attrition. It's just breaking them down. And you'll see most of his punches are thrown at the exact same speed, and it's with everything on him. He doesn't have a measuring jab. He has a good counter jab or a stalking jab. When he's walking in, he pops it out there. I mean, there's a whole lot on it every time. It's not to measure, it's to do damage. And that's an effective tool for him, but I think his main thing is to be a counter puncher. It's not until he's worn you down some that you start to see Rosario stalk. One thing that I noticed was that his that counter punching, he relies on it quite heavily. So he needs someone else to lead. He's not coming in the fight to lead. He's not looking to be first in most of his early exchanges. We saw this with Jorge Cota, and I got to get the guy's name. I think it's like Ramirez or something like that. I hate being off on these type of things, but I'll come back to it. But Rosario is often a counterpuncher. You saw it a lot with J Rock. J Rock was throwing a lot of combinations, and once he was done, or like sometimes in the middle of it, but mainly once he slowed down a bit, that's when you start to see Rosario counter. He's His defense is mainly having his hands up here in that high guard, really tight. Uh, he'll let combos go off. I saw that a lot with the Jorge Cota fight. He'll let he let Cota just wing off that whole time, and then at the end of it, he let his hands go. So one issue he may have is that he keeps his hands at home a little bit too long. So if you're keeping your hands there and have all these punches coming at you, then you're not. That's taking a lot of time away. You're letting somebody else dictate the pace, and then what if they throw enough combos, laying their damage, and get out of there? See, a lot of that was J Rock's problem. J Rock didn't get out of there. J Rock is an admirer of his artwork. I saw that with him fighting Jermell Charlo. When he lands effectively, he sticks around for a little bit. Um, that's that's always dangerous with any fighter, but especially with like a concussive puncher like Rosario, or definitely like how Charlo did him. So that that's gonna come into play. The fact that he's a kind of a stop and start fighter. His offense is either gone or is completely stopped. That's kind of funny, despite the fact that I said that he's a counter puncher. He does counter punch, but he has a low output, and you can keep his hands at home, and he'll counter off the miss more so than off of you hitting his arms or catching it and shoot. He's gonna counter off the miss more than anything. Um, I love his body work. I don't know if I mentioned that enough. Uh, he counters to the body well. One problem he does have is when he's going down countering to the body. If he's throwing like a left hook, this right hand drops down. I saw I saw a lot of counter left hooks come over the top with him, because he does this. When he's throwing that left hook, he's turning like this, and this hand isn't staying up there. He's bringing it down to here, and that leaves room for counter left hooks. So looking into that, him fighting Jermell Charlo, one of Charlo's most underrated weapons is his left hook. I saw in the Julian Jackson fight, one of his best punches were those counter left hooks. I saw that with Tony Harrison. Um, who else? Charles Hatley. If you look at his fights, his left hook is an underrated weapon. It's it's always there, and is great as a counter. It's mainly a counter. He has a check left hook and a hard left hook that he throws over the top with most of his counters. Because we saw that with Tony Harrison in the second fight. I mean, he was swinging for the fences with that thing. And when he landed it in the 11th, I believe it was 11th, that it was a left hook counter that was for the first knockdown. It All it took was just clipping. It clipped the chin, and it put Tony down. So these are this is something that Rosario is going to have to work on. He's going to have to be aware of in this type of fight, because even though he's a counter puncher and a body puncher, he brings that hand down. He's going to get hit over the top. His defense is, I think it's respectable, but it's not great. Like I said, he keeps his hands tight. This is mainly his defense. He's not defensive with his legs or his eyes. Like, he's not slipping shots or anything. He can catch them sometimes, but he's not somebody. He doesn't have, like, I would say, Errol Spence. Errol Spence catches shots all the time. He's winging them off the gloves, and he can return. But that's not how Rosario does. He just blocks them all out. He just tries to nullify and then get his turn to go at it. Now, as we move towards Jermell Charlo, we've seen a lot of development from the point where he started training with Derrick James to where he is now. He he has developed a lot. He's more concussive in his punching than he used to be. He's offensively stronger. His defense maintained. His defense maintained. Before, his defense was mainly in his feet. It was getting out of the way, staying out of the way. But now he's more of a pocket fighter. Um, his jab was always educated. I mean, he came from Ronnie Shields, so you're gonna have an educated jab. But I think it has a little bit more thunder under it, and he's setting things up off of it better. See, we saw in the first Harrison fight, he wasn't jabbing effectively. It was all body. It was all just power shots. And in the second fight, his more successful punches, and especially with Cota, his punches were set up by the jab. All, sorry about that. All of the uh, all of the knockdown punches versus Cota started with the jab. Even the knockout, it was a 1-2. So we see that that jab sets up his punches effectively. He has a little tail in it because that first that lead foot comes up some. He comes up with the lead foot and then sticks it out there straight into straight into your chin. But he has a very effective jab. I think it's underrated. I would also say his one of his more deceptive qualities is the guy sees all the shots. Like he gets caught from time to time, but if you see his fights, when he's countering, when he's landing, he sees everything. Like Danny Garcia has been accused of just winging his left hook. I don't see that when I see the Charlo fight. I see him staring right at his opponent, especially if you see Charles when he fought Charles Hatley. These guys were in a great exchange. He was able to slip out. His right hand was still up here tight to his chin, and then he turned it over and like brutalized Charles Hatley with that knockout. And it was, I mean, it was an amazing knockout, but it was mainly the eyes. He was always looking. He wasn't looking away. Even versus Tony Harrison, the first knockdown of the fight, and I believe the second round. In that round, he took two punches, but his eyes were still on his target, and he still punched with Charles, not Charles, but Tony Harrison, and knocked him down in that second round. So that's an underrated skill set that he has. He's always looking at what's going on. He has excellent combinations. Like one thing I'm noticing is going to be an issue for Rosario is the fact that his guard is up here and he waits for you to stop. Charlo doesn't just throw right there. He can throw. I've seen him throw like 8 or 9 punch combinations, and these are up and down. They're punches to the head, to the body, uppercuts, hooks, straights. I mean, he's throwing everything at that time. And if your guard is just right here, if you're not moving at the legs, that's the thing. Rosario will be straight, and his guard is to be this tight. He's gonna get hit in the body. He's gonna get hit in the body quite a few times, and I mean that doesn't play into anybody's hand. Getting hit doesn't play into anybody's hand, but getting hit in the body with Rosario, who doesn't have the best gas tank, is gonna hurt him. So that's what I saw with the Nathaniel Gallimore fight. He was really gassed at the point of the knockout. So we know that I mean body shots are gonna add to that, and the fact that his guard remains high, he's susceptible to getting tired a lot quicker. I saw him tired versus Cota as well as versus the guy who I need to stop bringing up if I can't remember his damn name. But yeah, I saw a lot in that fight. That was the main one I was watching with him. I'm serious. That's the one where you get a lot of his pros and cons. So I was kind of disappointed in myself that I can't remember the guy's name. But just seeing that along with the fact that Charlo gets better as the fight goes on, I think that's something that's part and parcel to the training that you get out there at Derrick James's gym, because we normally saw that with Spence. In the last couple fights, he said he's been waning on his training, not to rhyme intentionally, but he's been lax in it. So we didn't see how he was before, where like as the fight goes on, it got worse and worse for guys as the fight goes on. Like he picked up versus Brook. Kell Brook. Spence really picked it up as the fight went on. That's why you had a late round knockout. I don't think it's any coincidence that Jermell Charlo is also getting later round knockouts. He had 11th round knockout with Tony Harrison. He was also able to get that. I think it was about 8 or 9 round knockout with John Jackson. So the guy's a live dog throughout the entire fight, and he's that power carries throughout the fight. And even Tony Harrison said, "Man, this guy's going on." It was a accusation of him having like uh, outside the rules substance for his Gatorade bottle or something like that. That it wasn't water. That maybe he had, you know what I'm saying, some electrolytes or something like that. So if somebody's saying that about you, then that means you're doing something right. And that's going to be an issue for Rosario as the fight goes on. Um, I also noticed that Rosario looked huge, but in his last fight with Julian Williams, but that was with Julian Williams. I've seen pictures of Williams next to Spence, and Earl Spence was much bigger. So Julian Williams is, I mean, there's a chance he could probably compete at 147 because the guy's like he's probably about 5'9" in that weight class. He's around the height of Erickson Lubin or Austin Trout, so he's not as big as like Rosario, who's 5'11". Rosario, if you look at him in the Cota fight, these guys are about the same size, and it didn't look comparative when you put him Cota next to Jermell Charlo. So that's something to look at because we're used to seeing him as some people said Lil Charlo or whatever like that, but this guy is still huge for the weight class. I mean, he's probably along the size of maybe just a tad bit smaller than Jared Hurd. It's just because we're used to seeing him next to his brother. But you got to remember, before his brother moved up in weight, these guys were indistinguishable, really. You see them next to each other, you couldn't tell who was who, not just because they're identical, but I mean, their size wasn't too far off until Jermall Charlo went up to 160 and was able to put on a little bit more mass at the weight class. So that's what makes the visible size difference. But at 154, they weren't too different. So he's still a giant in the weight class. And I think when we see him next to Rosario, the perception that that Rosario is this big fighter at the weight is going to go out the window. Well, he's a big fighter at the weight, but that he's going to have this size advantage is going to go out the window. I'm trying to see the ways that I give for Rosario to win, but the way I see it playing out, I don't like to say knockouts. I'm not a guy who likes to predict knockout, but he's susceptible to being hit quite a lot. Jermell Charlo gets stronger as he goes on, and this guy wanes as he goes on. He gets tired. He loads up with every single shot. He leaves himself open to counters, and Charlo is an effective counterer, especially with the left hook. So I'm seeing a lot more countering from Charlo. I'm seeing him being able to get out of the way with a lot of the punches because this guy can dodge his punches right in the cut. He has the upper body and head movement that allows him to get out of the way of a lot of shots, or he catches a lot of them. And when he's hit, he's obviously been hit flush. I haven't seen him wobbled or anything like that. Now, Jeison Rosario, when he lands flush, is going to test it because this dude puts everything on it. But he's an accumulation puncher, so it's going to take more than one of those flush landing shots to do that type of damage. Like I said, I hate predicting knockouts, but I'm going to do it. I think Charlo knocks him out maybe around the 9th round. I think he's going to... I don't like when Charlo doesn't fight angry. Like some people think fighting angry is bad, but for this person, He belongs in his feelings and in his emotions. He's better at it when he fights for ambition, like he did the first Tony Harrison fight and first the Austin Trout fight. He tends to miss some things, especially against those movers and everything like that. Lucky for him, Jeison Rosario isn't that. But when he has motivation, like emotional motivation, and right now I don't like to get into this part of it, but him and his brother got a little spat or whatever. That anger, taking that type of emotion into the fight, might lead him to definitely get that ninth round knockout that I'm predicting. But I think it's going to be fairly one-sided after about the third round because he doesn't really come on too early. He just fills you out. Both him and his brother like that. They take in the information and then go from there. I think it's going to play into his hands later on. We'll see some. We'll see Rosario show his chest, so his heart in there, but I think the levels will prevail. We'll see the cream rise. So towards the middle, we'll see separation, and towards the ninth, we'll see it all over with. But that's just my sign off. I'd love to hear if you disagree, or if you agree, or if there's anything I missed. But this is the way I see the fight playing down, going down. Please leave your comments in the comment section. Again, like, share, and subscribe. This has been the Boxing Politic. Hey, we gonna keep going, man. Y'all take it easy. Peace.